So let's turn back to the United States, where some comments by Donald Trump about the racial heritage of his opponent have generated a lot of attention. Joining me is my colleague James Morrow, the host of the US Report on Friday nights, and James, a regular on this program. James, thanks as always. You look at this comment and you think Trump is a turnout machine, but not just for his own side. This will mobilise many votes against him as well, James.
Well, it may very well do so. It was a really fascinating thing that he did here today. He went and he did this long stage session interview at the National Union of Black Journalists Convention, faced some really, really hostile questions. In the course of this, he spoke about Kamala Harris, his new opponent's racial background, and said, you know what, she's not Black, she's Indian. In fact, well, she is on her mother's side Indian, her father's Jamaican, and she has, in fact, previously throughout her career promoted herself as Indian American, first Indian American senator and things like this. And so I think he was trying to play with this question of identity to undercut her appeals to, or attempts to appeal to win back some of the black votes that have drifted towards the Republican side. Now, whether or not this works, I'm not so sure, because this is creating a whole new set of controversy around Trump. And as you suggest, this may wind up getting more turnout against him than it does for him. But also, so many times with these things, you notice that he drops a bomb like this that has a fundamental underlying truth, and it gets people to start asking questions that they weren't necessarily asking before. So this one has a little bit of ways to run, I think.
The issue, as Frank Luntz, the Republican pollster, put it, I saw what Frank has written this morning, and he reminds his followers that people can be biracial. So it's not necessarily one or the other. And the fact is, as the journalist pointed back to Donald Trump, is that Kamala Harris went to a black college. So it's not something that's happened yesterday.
So, but it's interesting. She went to Howard University, which is a historically black college in the United States. But then, in a lot of her career and a lot of the media stuff she does, and this may have to do with complicated family issues around her dad and the divorce with her mother and other sorts of issues. I don't know. I don't want to speculate on that. But, there does seem to have been a period of time when her primary identity was around being of Indian heritage. Now, obviously, yeah, people can be biracial. It's America. People are mixed race all the time, and that's a great thing. But, what's interesting then is if she's also trying to claim to be black while trying to claim to be Indian while also being Jamaican, it creates this sort of, I guess this is where the whole sort of identity regime of American politics starts to collapse. And maybe that's, if there's any good to come out of this whole thing, it's that you start to collapse this idea that people fit into boxes one way or the other, or they should vote a certain way because of their racial identity, which is something that, let's be honest, the Democrats have cashed in on for decades.
This is such an intriguing race, and then you've got Trump showing up at that event in the first place. He complained at the hostile question. I was, to wake up and see that exchange, I was surprised that Donald Trump would be in that setting at that venue, copping those questions. No criticism of the journalist for asking him, but the Trump campaign to put Trump in there, they must have thought it was worth the risk, or how does that unfold, James?
This convention, they always ask the nominees from both parties to come and speak to it and sit down with them. So this is nothing new. There's nothing unusual about the Republican candidate going and sitting down for this event. This is a regular thing that happens. That he went, though, I think whether or not you're a Trump fan or not, I think that you got to give him respect for sitting down in a really hostile interview situation, taking questions for quite some time from a very hostile questioner. And let's remember here, Kamala Harris was anointed, essentially, the new candidate here. She hasn't been confirmed yet. That'll happen at the convention, presumably. But she hasn't faced the press at all, and there's an awful lot of questions that she needs to be held to account on, her performance at the border, her performance as a prosecutor, her performance as a senator, and how all of this informs her, because right now what the Kamala campaign has done is they've put her in hiding. She's in witness protection. She's going and doing friendly events, rallies and things like that, but they're trying to keep her a blank slate as possible so that everybody just projects what they want onto her, but I don't think they can do that for 100 days, Kieran.
No, they can't. And also the debate situation is going to be absolutely intriguing. I look forward to talking to you about it after those debates happen eventually, because you think they must happen at some point. Just finally on the issue of the swing states and across the board, James, the polling, not unsurprising, has seen a bump for Kamala Harris, but it's a significant one, and the race is competitive again.
The race is competitive again. I mean, Trump still has those swing states. There may be some talk about a vice presidential nominee from Pennsylvania, which might help with that very crucial state with, I think it's 20 electoral votes there. The issue of fracking is going to be huge there, by the way, as it was the last time around in 2020. But the polls are still narrowly in Donald Trump's favor. I think Nate Silver has him at about 2-1 to win on the current trajectory. So the Kamala bounce was always going to happen. But again, can they maintain this enthusiasm? They're going to need to start to put meat on the bones of what a Harris presidency would look like. And it can't just be, oh, hey, it's a vibe, it's cool, it's progressive, go along with it. They need more than that.
Thanks so much, James. We'll see you next week, and we look forward to the US report Friday night, tomorrow evening, right here on Sky.